breaking news now. The indictment against Sean Diddy Combs has just been unsealed. Combs is being charged with racketeering conspiracy, alleging he ran an enterprise that he engaged in sex trafficking, forced labor, or kidnapping, arson, and other crimes. He's also charged with sex trafficking by force. I want to bring in ABC's Phil Lipoff, ABC News contributor and SiriusXM radio host Mike Muse, and ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer for more. Phil, give us the details on this indictment.
So we're just looking through it right now. You hit the highlights, but right off the bat, you know, they go through all of his, all of the names that, because they have to do that in an indictment. They have to name all the names he's ever gone by. And then they talk about, he relied on his employees and resources to influence the multifaceted business and what he would do. They allege that there were, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping. They allege arson, bribery, obstruction of justice. They go on to talk about how he would abuse women. They talk about kicking and punching and dragging and forcing them to have, they talked about highly coordinated sexual acts with male prostitutes. I mean, this is extensive. This seems to be everything that we have heard about in allegations. I haven't been through the entire thing yet. We're all looking through it. But so far, what I can tell just in the first couple of pages is most of the things they are alleging in this indictment we have heard about.
And Phil, I'm going to give you a chance to go through. I know I put you on the spot there, literally as we got that indictment now. Brian, walk me through legally. We've heard Diddy deny these charges, these accusations really throughout. Now they're officially charges. His attorney also before the indictment said that he's an imperfect person, but that he's not a criminal, again denying this. So what do you make of the fact that we're now seeing in black and white what the government is trying to charge him with?
Yes, it makes it a lot more interesting as to how to dissect this case. We have three charges. We have a racketeering charge, or what we also hear as RICO. The second count being, as Phil articulated, what we all thought might be there, the sex trafficking through force, fraud, or coercion, and then, of course, the transportation of prostitution. Now, those are the first initial charges. There could be more coming down the line, depending on how this investigation goes, but this is what we know so far. When it comes to these charges, we're looking at life in prison as a maximum for at least the second count and potentially the first as well. But also when it comes to RICO, how they're describing this enterprise as its way of promoting, enhancing, and protecting the brand, and that sex and sex trafficking was a part of it. We're going to see all the ugly and gruesome parts of bad boy entertainment that surround this alleged abuse in a way that I don't think many of us were prepared for.
Ryan, can you talk about the degree to these charges? Because any kind of sexual abuse or sexual assault is bad enough, but it sounds like what they're describing is something that was really premeditated and coordinated.
Yeah, so when you're talking about RICO, you're talking about a criminal enterprise, and criminal enterprises can be anything. Oftentimes we associate RICO with like the mafia or things of that nature, money and violence. This seems to be more in line to, if you want to draw a comparison, to that of R. Kelly, where there was an organization within the music industry that kind of was part and parcel. They interacted with each other in a way that you couldn't see where the music started and the alleged abuse ended. That it's almost the trafficking and transporting of women for the pleasure, for increasing the brand, for potentially even, hey, we want to get a new artist. So you know what? We're going to traffic this girl that he might be interested in a way of attracting and keeping this artist in a way to grow the brand and make money off of it. They are alleging that it is so intertwined that it's almost business as usual to do this trafficking and transporting. And at least that's what I'm reading from the initial allegations in this indictment.
We think of Diddy, we think of the music, but his influence goes far beyond that. How significant is it to have charges of this magnitude against someone who is this powerful?
It's huge. And just kind of give context to what Phil and what Brian is talking about. Diane, is in the conversation that we were just having a few moments ago. What I'm looking at from this unsealed indictment, of course, we need to learn a little bit more, is it seems like Cassie was such a big part of this indictment. A lot of these indictments comes from the lawsuit and the allegations that Cassie was actually discussing. In particular, you think about arson. I know people are probably wondering, where is the arson coming from? In Cassie's lawsuit, she alleged that Diddy threatened to blow up a current rapper Kid Cudi's car, to which Kid Cudi's car did blow up in an explosion, to which Kid Cudi then gave a statement and said that he can confirm that actually happened. I'm thinking that's where the reference of the arson comes from. I'm also thinking about the male prostitutes. Cassie alleges that during that time, Diddy would force her to look on the internet to solicit male prostitutes in order to engage in sexual activities. I'm assuming that is where the male prostitute dynamic is coming from. In terms of kidnapping, Cassie also has alleged in her lawsuit the forceful nature to which Sean Combs would remove her from events, from social settings, from gatherings, and keep her essentially in housing in order to perform these activities. When it comes to the idea of the enterprise, to kind of translate that to what Brian Buckmeyer just said so eloquently, culturally, what Diddy was. Diddy was the kind of person where if you were in the music industry, you wanted to be around. If you were trying to make your mark as an A&R executive, if you were trying to make your mark in the marketing, if you were trying to make your mark in order to hang out with him, to go to his home in the white parties in the Hamptons, that's how much of a pull Diddy had. I cannot underscore how Diddy had this concept and this idea of the Midas touch. And Diane, being a part of the music industry, being around Diddy, being around those events, being at his home in the Hamptons, being at his home in Miami, I had firsthand accounts, not of these allegations, I didn't see any of that, but how desperate people were to be in his orbit. I can't underscore that enough. You think about the 40th birthday party that he had that I went to at Cipriani's. I mean, people, they had Mariah Carey, you had, I remember the royal family was invited. I can't remember if they attended or not, right? But you had those type of individuals wanting to be there, coming. You think about Diddy runs the city with marathons. This is the type of influence and pull that he had. And so when I think about the racketeering and the enterprise dynamic, it's just about people who wanted to be near him and who was willing to do anything for Diddy to give them affirmation and recognition.
And Phil, as you're going through that indictment, what is that anything? What sticks out to you?
Well, I mean, Mike laid it out. I just want to touch on one thing that you didn't, and this is the violence toward women. In this one section, it says, on multiple occasions from 2009 and on, Combs assaulted women, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects, and kicking them. These assaults at times were witnessed, and then they go into the 2016 video that we saw of Cassie. So you're right, a lot of this stems from Cassie's allegations, but you see, I mean, they've got it laid out there.
And then, Phil, to what you just mentioned, too, in terms of the physical violence, not only is Cassie a part of this, but also, too, the recent lawsuit that we saw from former Danny Kaine group member Dawn Richard. Dawn Richard also says she witnessed these violent acts, too, as well.
All right, Phil, Mike, Brian, thank you.